One other thing I wanted to ask about is Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He said he wants to triple at the Worlds this year. That's not really possible, and at the Olympics next year. And we may have discussed this a little bit before, but as a fan, it will be very exciting to watch. But I also think about what happened to Sifan Hassan in Tokyo, where it took her so long to come back from that. She wasn't really running again until about May of 2022. And then we assume she was contending for medals, but came up short in Eugene. We assume she'll kind of be back to normal this year, but that's a massive endeavor to run 3 distance events in one Olympic Games, a medal in all 3. Is it something Jakob should do? Like, do you worry that it would endanger his long term future, or do you think, all right, he's a world champion, he's an Olympic champion, why not try this big blowout when he's in his prime and try to run 3 goals when he can? What do you guys think? Would you advise him to do it or not?
If he wants to do it, absolutely, yes. Like, his song, don't start with that nonsense. I almost tried to strangle you through the TV monitor. She was tired mentally. It wasn't physically exhausting that caused her not to run last year. She did a lot, mentally prepared for it. I think Ingebrigtsen loves to compete. He's virtually unbeatable. We all agree. We think he's unbeatable in a championship 5,000. Now maybe we'll be proven wrong this year. So does that extend all the way to the 10,000? Are these guys going to just drop him? I don't know. I would love to see him in the 10,000. He would have to run the 1,500 prelim, the first round of the 1,500, the morning of the 10,000 final, 11:05 a.m., 9:20. So he's got 9.5 hours. But then he gets 2 days off. So I don't think it's going to jeopardize his other events. And you got the 1,500 next, and then the 5,000. So
for me, I don't even think about doing the triple unless I'm able to pull off the double this year in Budapest. If he pulls that off, he's already the Olympic 1,500 meter champion. So he's already got the one he wants. Do you get greedy and go for it? What's the downside? You could play it safe. The 15.5 is pretty conventional for him. And you make history. Paavo Nurmi, El Garouche. John, what's his name do? Zatopek? No, he was longer distance, right?
Well, Zatopek did the 5K, 10K marathon. And I guess here's the selling point for Jakob. First of all, Weldon, he got the gold this year in Eugene in the 5K and was very close to the gold in the 1,500. Just because he didn't win both, he came very close to doing the double. I think he's entitled to think about this triple based on a gold and silver. If he gets gold and silver in Budapest, he can absolutely say I would take it on. But think about Zatopek. Back in 1952 in Helsinki, he wins the 5K, 10K, and marathon. It's still talked about to this day as one of the greatest feats in the history of athletics. And I think Sifan Hassan, what she did in Tokyo, gold, bronze, that's going to go down as one of the greatest feats in the history of athletics. If he wins the 15.5, that'll be like one of his crowning moments, absolutely. But this will go down if he tries it and pulls it off. It would go down as sort of one of the greatest feats in the history of the sport. That's the selling point. Like, he would be spoken about as the modern day Zatopek, which would be pretty awesome.
Right. I said, do you get greedy? That's not the right word. You go for greatness is the right word. If he's able to pull this off, it'll be one of the greatest feats in Olympic history. But the big question mark for me is the one event we're the least certain of. The 10,000 meters essentially is first. You have round 1 of the 1,500 and then the 10K final that night. So one could even win the 10K, but it would be total uncharted territory for him. How does he bounce back from running a championship Olympic 10,000 meters? That might wreck him for a 1,500 or 5K. He's never done anything like this. Whereas Hassan, sure, it was unprecedented for her, but she had the 10K last. I mean, she gutted that one out. I don't know how she pulled it off. I mean, it was epic. But it wasn't like she had done that. Like her Uncharted thing was essentially putting the events together. He's never done one of these events, and it would be first. And it's the longest one, and you don't know what it's going to do to your body and that sort of stuff. Now, maybe some scientists could chime in and say, look, dude, you'll be fine. Your body will get back into it. I have no effing idea.
We need him to change the schedule. Put the 10K last, 5K first. Move the 5K up even sooner so they don't overlap. Weldon raises a good point there. It's a little bit dangerous when he's never run the 10 before. Have to have that one first. So
Well, I don't think they need to overhaul the schedule. Like, that's part of the challenge. This is meant to be hard. It's not supposed to be, hey, we're designing the schedule perfect so that it's going to be as easy as possible for you to do this. The schedule right now, it's possible. It's going to be very tough, but like that's part of the challenge. Is it's meant to be hard.
I kind of wish the 10K was last though, and he just was like granted a wild card at the last minute. Just like he wins the first two and just announce like he wasn't in the entry list and just says, "Hey, I'm doing it," and then they let him in. Like
Well, that's like
with,
Zatopek in the marathon, right? I
without
don't know if he was supposed to do it, and he's just like, "I'm going to do it." And then there's also the uncertainty because we're like, "Oh, we've seen him run the 15, we've seen him run the 5, but this is no one knows what he's going to do in the 10, but he's going to give it a try, and it's going to be the Olympic final. That would be amazing."
okay, let's say the 10K was last, and let's say he doesn't have a qualifying time, and he wins the 15 and the 5, and he says in an exclusive interview to yours truly, I said, "Hey, you said you talked to him in the past about doing triple. Any interest you do it?" He says, "Yes, I want to run the 10 on Sunday night or Saturday night or whatever it is." Do you think they would let him do it? Break all the protocols?
No, because he
Sadly, they
wanted to.
wouldn't.
He wanted to do that at Euros this year, and he didn't. They, and at the Worlds as well. Like, look, there should be a rule on the books. Put it in there right now, Sebco. If the 1500, if someone wins the 1500 and the 5000 at the Olympic Games, they're allowed to get a wild card entry to the 10K. I mean, it doesn't matter because the schedule is backwards anyway, so it's not going to come into play. But that should be on the books.
No, they should have a golden ticket. If you win a gold medal, you're free to enter any event you want. It's got to be your same sex, but that's it. You want to go do the long jump? Go ahead. The pole vault,
don't make a
yes.
mockery of throwing him in the long jump. But no, I actually do like this golden ticket. If you win any Olympic event, like you can run one within your event group. Like if you're the 100-meter champion, you can go and run the 400 as well. We'll throw you into the meet without a standard just at the last second. I think that would be cool. What's the downside to that?
Right. Or an extra entry or whatever it is.
What have our American visitors learned in the last week? I guess international visitors that are fans of American football. Rules are made to be changed. Like the NFL had a rule, like if a game is canceled, you go by a win percentage. And then they just voted to change the rules in the middle of the season. So you could theoretically vote to change the rules in the middle of the Olympics and make an exception. I was kind of thinking, like, I don't want to make him have to qualify for the 10, but I actually think it would be good for him. Let's say he wins the 15-5 this year, just seriously contemplating triple. I do think it would be good for him to run a 10K early in the season to see what it's like, because if he can't run, to be honest, I think if he can't break 27 flat, he ain't going to win this gold medal. Because I know it's prisoner's dilemma, but I cannot imagine these guys would be that stupid to let the pace go slow. It may be hot, but you would think they would set the damn pace up. But it would be so epic. Can you imagine if he's in the race and we're like, who's going to take the pace? And no one takes it. Then you're like, okay, this is turning into a 5,000, and we know how this ends.
Oh, the Ugandans or the Kenyans or the Ethiopians would have to team. They'd be like, look, not only is it our best strategy to beat this guy in the 10, it'll probably wear him out for the 5K as well. Because that would be his lost race at the end of the meet.
I mean, he's going to have to get a qualifier in the 10K somewhere, right? Like, we don't think he's going to have to run a 10 if he wants to do it somewhere. So he's going to have to run a 10 beforehand, at least see how he recovers for this to be a possibility. Although I would be fine if he just showed up and they wanted to put him in the damn final. Go for it.
I'm sure we will discuss this much more over the next year and a half. And actually, this made me think, with the Olympic schedule being out, we're almost on the 1 year to go mark for the Olympic marathon trials in Orlando. It'll be February 3rd